Magajigani, and this is Straight Talk. With me today is Michael Tien. Michael Tien, you're a roundtable legislator and also a Hong Kong delegate to the National People's Congress. Thank you very much for being on the show. Now, as an NPC delegate, you must have heard these rumors that the NPC, the NPC Standing Committee is meeting on Wednesday, and there are rumors that they may overhaul Hong Kong's political system to reduce the influence of the opposition. What have you heard?
I have not heard anything except the rumors. I'm not a standing committee member.
You're just you're a National People's Congress member, but not the standing committee.
The standing committee member will only have one representative, Tam Yu Chong. He'll be flying up. They'll be starting the meeting. I think tomorrow or
Wednesday
tomorrow.
They'll have the meeting.
Yes, tomorrow. From what I know about previous meetings, these sensitive matters, they only table at the last minute. So I would say that even Tam probably doesn't know. Now, in terms of whether they would do anything to change the political system of Hong Kong, you need to think about the fact that they've come such a long way to protect the basic law. So far, I don't see any chance of NPC trying to do anything which involves amending the basic law, because once you do that, it opens up a whole new Pandora box, all right? So they could either do the Article 18 through Annex 3, introduce things that relate to sort of affairs involving both sides, all right? Whether or not they can do that unilaterally, I actually doubt it. And if they don't want to amend the basic law and they want to do anything to the Hong Kong electoral system, if you think about it, a lot of the fine details are actually controlled by the Hong Kong government through local legislation. For example, we have 1,200 people to elect the CE. The basic law says there are four sectors, 300, right? And then there's one sector that relates to political, the political sector. That's all that's written in the basic law. It's through local legislation that we decide out of that 300, 117 comes from the district councillor, all right? So it's actually, you don't even need NPC to do anything. If government in Hong Kong introduced a law suggesting that we change that 117, either reducing it to a much smaller number or none at all, it's a local issue.
But that's exactly what I wanted to ask.
So it's got nothing to do with them.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but what came out from these rumors is that the 117 district council seats, right, in the election committee that selects the chief executive, a lot of them will go to the opposition because they won a lot of the seats in district councils in November of 2019. Now, one of the rumors is that that will be nullified so that they will not have, the opposition will not have any influence in selecting the chief executive. And another thing that came out is that the Legislative Council, whether there's going to be an election in September or not, nobody knows. It's supposed to be, but nobody knows. The rumor was that they were trying to reduce the influence of the opposition there as well. Is that good for Hong Kong, though, to more or less neutralize the opposition?
When you look at how the 1,200 came into being, to devote 117 seats to district council, actually, it's a very debatable question. Because in the district council, you don't even have to make an oath to plead allegiance to the basic law and the Hong Kong SAR. That's the biggest difference, all right? In electoral, you do, but in the district council, you don't. So
they're now saying that the
so you could actually run for it and get in there and then, you know, commit all these whatever, you know, other things that lead people to conclude you are not actually loyal to the basic law in the Hong Kong region. Of course, if you go too far, then you breach the national security law, then it's a different issue. Then you'll get arrested and prosecuted. But that's two different things. One is the qualification to continue. The other is whether you've,
So you're saying they should get rid of the 117 seats in the election committee to choose the chief executive?
I actually have been thinking about that. To have the district council members control almost 10% of the electoral committee members to elect CE, is that something that is a bit too sort of lopsided? All right, consider there are a lot of other more, how should I say it, more impactful positions within the sector that actually rightfully would do it. So my position is actually mutual.
Okay.
All right, so it depends on whether government will do it.
Okay, let's switch topics a little bit. Over the past few weeks or so, 55 about opposition activists and so on, and former legislative councillors were arrested for holding a primary or joining a primary election, right? For the legislative council election that was eventually delayed anyway. Is that the right thing to do? It was just a primary.
People are speculating as to what is going on behind the scene. I think the best for Hong Kong, and that has always been my DNA, is to look at every word of the law. Because that's what Beijing preaches anyway, every day, 依法治國, rule by law. So there are two articles in the national security law. One is 20 and one is 22. 20 deals with separatism. Under Article 20, dealing with separatism, basically it says if you organize, plans, commit, or participate in anything, regardless of your means, you will be charged, all right? However, Article 22, which deals with overthrowing the government and things like that, or paralyzing the government, making it unworkable and all that stuff, they added a sentence in there, which is, what is it? Let me see, I'm just reading it. With a, okay, other unlawful means. So one that deals with separatism is open. As long as there's proof that you plan or organize something and you declare that that's your motive, the motive then becomes part of the law. But under 22, which deals with the overthrowing of the regime, the government and all that, they added a word which is that a term which is that it has to be through other unlawful means. All right.
So is it unlawful?
So it's obvious when the Standing Committee were thinking about these two crimes, right? One is separatism, one is sort of overthrowing the regime. They make that one very tight, and they make this one a little bit looser. So then the key question that prosecution needs to decide and the court needs to decide is a primary unlawful? So by any means, most people would think that the primary is not unlawful.
What do you think?
We've had primary in the past.
Sure, so what do you think?
Established. I cannot see how organizing a primary can be unlawful, all right? In the primary, if they have platforms and election slogan that leads to a future promise that they will do such and such after they get elected into electoral, that becomes a motive, right? But the primary itself, I don't see how it is unlawful. So the question is, I think they have to really come up with more details as to how a primary which cannot by itself be unlawful, coupled with claims, okay, that they would eventually do such and such, whether this whole thing then constitute, once you integrate the two, all right?
That's very complicated.
Yeah, it's very complicated. I mean,
but,
most people would separate the means and the ends, and this is how myself, not a legal expert, would tend to interpret.
So to make it very simple, you think that it'll be very hard to bring to court these 55 people who had participated in the primary?
It depends when they organize the primary and when they deal with the primary, whether that at that particular stage, all right, they have conducted anything that is unlawful. For example, there could have been foreign government money in there to organize the primary, right? So organizing the primary itself, to my limited knowledge, I'm not a legal expert, doesn't seem to be unlawful. But have they gotten help from other people, like foreign government, that then trigger off another section of the National Security Bill, which would make it unlawful?
But then these people were arrested and then they were not charged and released on bail.
Well, in Hong Kong, most people that were charged are released on bail.
I know, but if it's
That's
such
only normal. If they're not released on bail, then it's a serious issue.
No, if it is such a serious thing that violated the national security law, surely the police would have gotten enough evidence to charge them before arresting them, right?
You are talking about a point I made earlier, is that I don't think the court letting people out on bail would imply whether the police have arrested people rightfully.
I've got to just...
Okay, but
I've got to take a quick break.
If the prosecution doesn't come through, then that would be a problem.
All right, quick break. See you soon, don't go away. Thanks for staying with us. This is Straight Talk. With me is Michael Tien, Roundtable legislator and also Hong Kong delegate to the National People's Congress. Now, you were saying, sorry I interrupted you, but to take a quick break. You were saying the courts would not know whether the police have enough evidence or not. But if these people didn't even go to court, they were released on police bail without being charged. So surely I thought if it is such a serious issue that they broke the national security law and you rounded up 55 people at the crack of dawn, you should charge them.
Well, first of all, with regard to whether if somebody is granted bail after being arrested by police, I think that's a norm in Hong Kong. Most people when they ask for bail, were granted. Only the most serious situation, they're not granted.
Oh, if you're charged with the national security.
So I'm not surprised at all. But whether the police have made massive arrests and then eventually damage their reputation because a lot of them couldn't actually be followed up with, it depends on the prosecution. So if the Secretary of Justice do not follow up with a lot of these prosecutions, then it would not look too good on the part of the police.
Well, even now,
however, if they had followed up a lot of the prosecution, at the end, it depends on how the court rules. After the court rules, the government can then appeal, and then eventually it would go all the way up to CFA. So at this juncture, to say whether the police have been reasonable or unreasonable, or how much evidence do they have, I think it's way too premature. All I'm saying is that looking at the text of Article 22 of the National Security Bill, straightly on the surface of holding a primary, I don't see how it's unfoldable.
Well, a very quick...
the point is, one should investigate the issue of how the primary is formed, all right? The people who organize it, do they have any resources coming from other sector, and who are these sectors? Then the whole thing becomes different. So at this point, it's not, it's not objective enough without any kind of further revelation for me to make a point.
Okay. So let's change the subject a little bit. You mentioned Tam Yu-jung. He's the sole Hong Kong representative to the National People's Congress Standing Committee. You're a representative to the National People's Congress, right? The National People's Congress will be holding a meeting, I think in March as well. Now, Tam Yu-jung, as a standing committee member, was sanctioned by the U.S. last week. And so were quite a few other people. Carrie Lam has been sanctioned. The police commissioner has been sanctioned. You're a National People's Congress member, but not a member of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. Are you worried you'll be sanctioned as well?
I never think about it. If it
You're
happens,
an NPC member?
No, if it happens, it happens.
But you got a lot of business in Hong Kong. You're a businessman, right? How will that affect your business?
Well, I throw myself, I offer myself to do public service. I run for the National People's Congress out of my own free will. And if there happens one day to be a problem between U.S. or any other foreign government with my mother country, then I have to accept all the consequences.
But then you won't have access to bank accounts or credit cards. How can you conduct your business?
No, well, that's how should I say it? That comes with the whole package. Right?
Have you got assets in the U.S. that you're trying to get rid of now? Or?
No. I have assets, not a lot, in various parts of the world, but I never worry about that. If they freeze it, then they freeze it. But then are these things permanent? I don't know what the Biden administration will do, right?
Are you worried, though, Michael?
No, not at all.
You don't mind being
To me, it's not even worth talking about it.
Okay. So you're not worried if it happens,
I can't have the cake and eat it too at the same time, right? Sure. So if I plead allegiance to Hong Kong and to the Chinese Constitution and the basic law and everything, then I have to take whatever else comes with it, and I cannot control the future of the Chinese government with the rest of the world, all right? If there are countries that get to this hostile state that say they don't allow visa to be issued to people like me, then I just don't go.
That's an interesting point. The BNO. Now, there's talk that, UK, as you know, has said there can be a path to citizenship for BNO holders, right? In response to the National People's Congress, national security law. Now, the Hong Kong government or others, the central government as well, have said that they may not recognize the British National Overseas, or BNO, passport. And Regina Yip, a fellow LegCo member of yours, said that those who take up this path to citizenship should lose their rights in Hong Kong. For example, the right to vote and so on. Is that the right thing to do?
This is a hot issue lately. Let's be very objective about it again. All right. In 1996, the NPC made a statement. Basically, it says Hong Kong people who are of Chinese origin, if they acquire a foreign passport and foreign citizenship, they are allowed to hold on to both. And with regard to permanent residentship of Hong Kong, they have to come back. If they reside overseas, they have to come back once every 3 years. Right? Once every 3 years. And that's it. Then, basically, the current law, which means anybody who acquire a Chinese citizen born in Hong Kong, acquiring foreign citizenship after 1977, under the current law, automatically they loses the Chinese citizenship, automatically. However, losing the Chinese citizenship and losing the Hong Kong permanent residency are two different things. And honestly, most Hong Kong people, they worry more about the Hong Kong permanent residency if they acquire a foreign citizenship than the Chinese citizenship, okay? So the question is, then can you relate losing the Chinese citizenship, link it to, therefore automatically you lose the Hong Kong permanent residency? My understanding is no, because any foreign passport holder who lives in Hong Kong for more than 7 years consecutive can apply for permanent residency once you got it, and that stays with you for life, and that's protected by the basic law. Again, if Beijing wants to amend the basic law, sure, they can tie the permanent residency to the Chinese citizenship, but no way. I don't think they would go through that extent just for this issue. So all it takes
So why
is
are they
for these
threatening?
people.
Why are they threatening?
So all it takes is for these people to go over to UK, stay for 5 years, and then apply for the British
Permanent,
citizenship.
right.
They just come back once every 3 years, and they maintain the permanent residency. In terms of the Chinese citizenship, under the current law, without Regina Yip or anybody
You
else
cannot have
saying
dual
or doing
nationality
anything,
anyway, right?
they already lose it.
But there are like
So
over a million.
I don't even understand what is the issue.
Well, the issue is, there are threats from the central government, there are threats from Regina Yip and others, that if you take up this offer to go to live in the UK, you will lose your right in Hong Kong.
Okay. The only thing I hear from the central government is that they will not recognize the BNO as a travel document.
Can they stop people using the BNO to leave Hong Kong?
No, but they can stop BNO. If anybody enter Hong Kong or China using a BNO, they have to get a visa, that's all.
But they cannot stop you from leaving
They
Hong
don't
Kong.
recognize that travel document. No.
So if a person goes to the UK with the BNO, acquires full citizenship, comes back to Hong Kong, is that possible?
It's possible. Then it depends. If if I were them, I'll enter using the ID card. They leave on an ID card and they come back on an ID card. So, what can you do about it?
So now there are like over 1 million people in Hong Kong holding foreign passports, Canadian, Australian, whatever passports, right? They still have a BNO, they have an SAR, but China does not allow dual nationality. How do they acquire all that then? How do they hold on to all of that?
China does not allow dual nationality for its Hong Kong citizenship. That's very clear. That applies to 1.3 billion Chinese in the mainland and also apply to us. And we always know that. A lot of us still have dual citizenship. And if we don't declare it and we don't get into trouble, they just let it be.
They don't know. Do you have dual nationality?
No.
You're a LegCo member. You're not allowed to have a foreign passport, right?
Yeah, I gave it up, my British passport, a long time ago when I ran for LegCo. All right? But basically, the key issue, like I said, come back to the permanent residency. For people who acquire citizenship overseas and they lose their Chinese citizenship, all it means is that they get into trouble elsewhere in the world. They don't have the Chinese embassy to protect them, only the embassy of the
country that they have.
Where
so the difference is...
That is the big difference. And when they travel into China...
They've got to get a visa.
Okay, then they have to get a visa. That's all.
They lose their home return permit.
Yes.
Right. Because they're then treated as foreign nationals.
Because home return permit relates to the fact that you need to have a Hong Kong permanent ID card, and then you are of Chinese origin, then you have a home return permit. Otherwise, you apply for a visa.
Can they still
So the material difference to these people is that they are not protected by the Chinese embassy worldwide.
Okay.
And then when they go into China, they have to get a visa.
I've run out of time. Just one last question, very quickly. If they acquire the foreign passport, will they lose their SAR passport as well?
The foreign passport or that's a good question. I don't know.
You don't know. But they can keep their permanent residency and their ID card, but you don't know whether they will lose their SAR passport.
Well, if you have a British passport and you have a Hong Kong permanent residency, what else do you need?
I don't know. People want to keep the SAR as well, but we've got to end the show right there. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Good evening.